to this LinkedIn live session, which is part of a purpose dialogue that we hold today in Munich, part of a trilogy, almost I would say, of three aspects of purpose dialogue discussions and formats that we prepared together with a team of students of Munich University. So one format is just happening live in a room next to us as a live discussion. A second room is happening as also in an online format via Zoom in German language. And here we would like to welcome all our visitors to an English language LinkedIn live broadcast. The topic of today's discussion is business with respect for a sustainable future. And it's a topic developed by our students. It's a team of bachelor students of Munich University in communications science. And we had a purposeful discussion actually at the beginning of this semester. Why do we need a purpose dialogue? And we came to the conclusion that in challenging times, it's important to be optimistic about the future. And we believe this is the key to solving problems and overcoming challenges together. And this type of discussion we would like to share with you via LinkedIn today. And we have, I think, quite a fascinating panel represented today that will come into play step by step during the next 90 minutes. First of all, I would like to introduce our student representatives. That's Amelie Kurz and Lisa Eggert, who were part of this course and will start and kick off the session content-wise, because they reflected during the semester both on their individual purpose and also what purpose means for Gen Z, so the young generation coming into companies today. Then I'd like to introduce next Joep Cornelissen. Joep is a professor for communications at Rotterdam Erasmus University. Welcome, Joep. And Joep says that the distortion of purpose means that we urgently need to save the concept from pure rhetoric and misuse and instead further the ways in which it can be used for real positive change in the corporate world. So that's thanks for this perspective, Joep. We have Eva Pomeroy representing the Presencing Institute, and she says she has the higher education perspective on purpose and says a key role for higher education in the 21st century is to help the next generation connect to their purpose and to connect that purpose to what the world needs now. So also a fascinating view. Thanks, Eva, for joining. Then we have Allan Moelholm. Allan is just setting up probably his business in a purposeful way, and says that purpose means that we're here to provide truly valuable and meaningful products and services and to make a positive contribution to society. Welcome, Allan. Then we have Franz Allmeier, who is covering and representing also a wider project, a European Digital Innovation Hub, digihub.li, that we are founding actually together also in Liechtenstein. And Franz has a deep background in blockchain-based organizations, and he says that decentralized autonomous organizations, so-called DAOs, emerge as powerful catalysts, seamlessly integrating purpose and finance, propelling a new paradigm of business where collective intelligence drives intentional impact. So welcome, Franz. We have Frank Thiele. He is involved in the Meet Your Purpose project, and Frank says, I'm convinced that companies without a credible purpose have no future, and we're looking forward to hear more about this. Frank, welcome. And we have Thimo Kühner. He is representing one of the famous German family-owned businesses, the company Stabilo. And Thimo, I'd actually like to hand over to you briefly to share your main message live, and then before we hand over to the students. I think you're still muted, Thimo.
I muted because now No, it should be okay.
Yeah,
Purpose for us is
excellent.
important to reach our customers, our fans on the outside, and we aim to translate that purpose to the inside, so people can connect with not just with the brand and the company, but also with themselves. And so they know when they work for Stabilo that they work there for the right reasons because their purpose, ideally, or their values match the values that the company represents on the outside. It's a big task and it's never finished because it's always evolving.
Excellent. Thank you, Timo. Looking forward to hear more about this perspective in the coming discussion. And now talking about the discussions, it's actually that we said it would be a nice exercise to apply the principles for dialogue that are used and applied in the case clinic format that was introduced by the Presencing Institute. And I really made some good and valuable experience with this format in discussions between individuals and organizations, and also within organizations, because to me this format actually stands for practicing a skill that we all think that we have, but it is rarely applied in business in some situations, and that's the practice of listening, actually. So it requires a bit some discipline at the beginning, and will then open up to an iterative, to a generative discussion towards the end of these 90 minutes in total. And the principles are also to be specific, so to talk about the real challenges that we have in place. It also includes that all participants in these discussions are peers on equal terms, so there's no hierarchy, whatever the background of the participants in this discussion is. And we will all try our best actually to apply openness to the things that come out from this discussion. So to start with, I mentioned at the beginning, I would actually like to hand over to our students, to Lisa and Amelie, and ask them to have a look at what drives themselves, first of all, and Gen Z. I'd like to ask all of us as panelists, I include myself in this, to listen, and also to listen on the ideas, also on the images, the feelings that come up through listening to the students that represent our Gen Z. So I'd like to hand over to Amelie and Lisa and make your case of purpose. So what does it mean for you, and what does it mean for Gen Z in total? Over to you.
Hello, thank you, Hartmut. Can please everybody confirm if you understand me? Perfect, thank you. So, I'm Amelie Kurz, and today I'm a representative of Generation Z, and I wanted to address, for me, my purpose in general is that I always want to learn something new, learn new cultures, about new people, and learn about new opportunities, and also be open and stay curious at all times, and to be brave enough to redefine my purpose as well. But I think my current purpose would be that I want to work and connect with people from all around the world. This gives me the greatest pleasure. So thank you for being here. And yeah, speaking of purpose, I want to address the purpose of my generation, Generation Z, and therefore talk about mental health and equal opportunities, amongst other things. So mental health has become a great issue of Gen Z. As you may all know, during COVID, the depression rates and anxiety rates increased a lot. But mental health problems have been an issue before COVID as well. So because of relentless social media exposure, academic demands, and uncertain economic prospects, and also, of course, climate change and war, this all affects our mental health, the mental health of our generation. So, but what I think what makes Generation Z special, or maybe different from other generations, is that we're not afraid and we have no shame to tackle those issues and to also ask for help if needed, and we are also more open to talk about mental health in general. So for the future, we expect companies to show their support and understanding by offering mental health programs or therapeutic help to their employees if they struggle with mental illness. So moving to another very important subject to talk about is Gen Z's position in the battle for equal opportunities. Because unfortunately, we still live in a world with systematic biases such as gender pay gap, racism, queerphobia, and unfortunately more. So also this discrimination towards minorities and those general social inequalities we want to change. So Gen Z aims for change. We want gender equality, racial justice, LGBTQ plus rights, and socioeconomic parity. In conclusion, our generation has been at the forefront for demanding inclusive and equal society. And I think with our participation in the working field, we strive to break outdated societal norms and lead the demand for change. Lisa, it's now your turn.
Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Amelie, for presenting the respect for the people side of Gen Z's purpose. With respect for the people also comes respect for the environment, which is the second part of Gen Z's purpose. I'm Lisa. I found my purpose through my course of studies, which is geography, and my hobby, which is painting. So my purpose is a combination of these two things. I'd like to make my life about creative implementation of environmental protection. And in general, the protection of the environment is very important for our generation. We all know that we currently live in a time of unprecedented challenges because of climate change. And that urgency to protect and preserve the planet has never been more important. Our generation has recognized this and has made the commitment to sustainable practices a main purpose. But we also want companies to be a part of the action. We want them to take accountability, and together we want change from all sectors of society. I think we can see that the business landscape is slowly undergoing a transformation by recognizing that embracing sustainability is very marketable. Some companies even realize that sustainability is not just a moral imperative, but also a strategic advantage. These forward-thinking companies are harnessing the power of innovation and technology to build resilient and environmentally responsible enterprises. They understand that aligning their values with those of the younger generation not only fulfills their social responsibility, but also fuels their growth and profitability in the long run. We hope that more companies aim for that. The collaboration between purpose-driven and demanding Gen Z and the resources of the business world can influence and transform how companies operate in the future. So our question is, how can purpose-driven initiatives be used as catalysts for innovation and the creation of sustainable business models? Well, we think that our shared commitment to protect our planet for generations to come is a pretty good starting point.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Amelie, for joining, for sharing your thoughts. That's a great insight you gave us on what drives you in terms of purpose, and also what are the main aspects then for Gen Z in this. I'd now like to invite our panelists actually to share your thoughts, first of all, on what you heard from our Gen Z representatives. I'd now like to ask Lisa and Amelie to listen and to make up your mind, what you hear now back from our panelists. And also the second question would be, where is the need actually that you see, the need for purpose from your perspective, and how does it fit to the position that I presented at the beginning. So one question, what came up in listening to the students, and what kind of need for purpose do you see emerging from that? Who would like to start? It's now an open round, but everyone should come to raise a voice. Joep, maybe I saw you nodding. Would you like to give it a start?
Yeah. So that was my mistake then. No, let me first of all say that I really appreciated what you shared, and I think we can expect organizations to do better, and all of us to do better, and also your the sentiment of sort of boldly facing the future and trying to pursue some of these ends that you talked about, some of these important issues for our society. I think that's the least that we can expect, or that we should expect collectively from ourselves as well as the business world. So I think that's very empowering. So one thing that I find interesting is that, I mean, you both talked about your own journey of sort of figuring out your purpose, and to some extent you could see, so a lot of the purpose is really about figuring out who you are, what values you live by, what's your reason for existence. That's how it's often talked about in the business world, but also more specifically, what aspirations do you see for yourself as an individual or as an organization to commit yourself to. And these aspirations, often they're talked about in terms of a North Star, so something outside of yourself. So Patagonia is trying to save the planet, which is a cause, an important cause that is set outside of themselves, and that they're vigorously trying to pursue and realize through everything that they do, through all of their operations, through the legal structures that they set up, to whatever means they can find at their disposal to realize that. The thing that Hartmut mentioned my opening statement. So I think it's important that companies, similar to how you set aspirations for yourself and how you have certain values that both of you have that you live by, that companies also start to do this and start to reflect on this deeply, so that they, like the Patagonia case, really think about purpose as a meaningful set of aspirations to pursue. And often that means, at least in my view, that these are important societal common goods or causes that we all care about. So like inequality, or like saving the planet that you referred to. The difficulty in the business world is that the word purpose, because it's about yourself, it's about the values you live by, the aspirations that you set, can mean many different things. So you see a lot of companies, and it's I'm not trying to be too critical or judgmental here, but often purpose just becomes a description, if you look at the banking or the insurance industry, for instance, for what we're already doing or what we're already good at, or the types of products or services that we deliver, or at a very basic level, some values that we subscribe to of running our business in a responsible enough manner and within the law and with ethics and responsibility at the heart of it. But those purpose statements are more about themselves than necessarily about aspirations that connect to the types of causes that you mentioned. And even in some cases, you you know, every company nowadays has a purpose statement. So even British American Tobacco has got a purpose statement that says we're going to build a better tomorrow. So there's a lot of rhetoric, there's a lot of embracing, there's so much embracing of the purpose notion that there's also a lot of ambiguity about what it means and very different uses of the term. Hence my statement that I think it's important to start to become a little bit more discerning about what purpose is. And I like what you said. So purpose for yourself is a really strong sense of these are the ideals, the aspirations that I want to be pursuing because they're important for society. And you would like that type of commitment equally to be as deep within organizations, so that you, like Patagonia or Interface, or probably many of the companies in the room today, you know, stake a really high level aspiration for yourself that you want to pursue. But yeah, then, so we need to be more discerning so that we can also help companies that haven't got that yet to maybe be a bit more ambitious, to find a stretch goal or aspiration that they can commit themselves to and then further themselves forward in that way. But I'll leave it here, because but in any case, I really appreciated what you said and connect to it.
Thank you, Joep, for sharing your perspective. That's great. Who would like to go next? Maybe one of our... Yes?
Eva, ladies first.
Okay, Eva, over to you.
Yeah. So equally, I just want to say thank you for your sharing. And I think I'm going to take a few steps back because I'm coming in as an educator from higher education. And as an educator, I couldn't be more thrilled that you're both coming out of your bachelor's degree with this sense of purpose. Because I think if we are here for anything, it's for that. Right. And that you can, sometimes I fear that too many young people go through all the steps of the courses, leave, have the certificate, but really are still left without much sense of kind of who they are in the world and the change that they want to make. So the fact that each of you were able to touch that, and I think, Lisa, you talked about that both through your coursework in geography and through your sort of personal activities, painting, and connect that to something deeper in you so that you leave with real direction. It's just so heartening. And I think for me, that's, we need to work that more, and we need to design our higher education so that that's exactly what's happening for young people when they come through. So I wanted to start with that. There are a few pieces that you touched on that I think were really powerful. Amelia, you talked about learning. You're about learning, and I think for businesses, for all sectors, I think we should never underestimate how powerful learning is as a motivator, right? And the capacity and the space and the kind of structures that support us to grow and learn always. And you said boldly redefine your purpose. So I also think that the workplace needs to find ways for that to happen for people, so that there's a regeneration within going forward, and it keeps it alive. And that's where innovation's happening, right? Innovation and learning are so strongly related. So I found that really kind of exciting. And then the other thing that as you were speaking, Lisa, and you were saying, this is important to us. And you didn't say this is what we demand, but I think there's such a power in the young generation saying, this is what we want. This is what we expect from businesses, right? So that's a really important part, that energy, that seeing of the future that you are going to live. And that also needs to be paired with, like, this needs cross-generational work. Everything that you've talked about is so big and so important and impacting all of us, that it really needs that energy and sort of directionality that comes from Gen Z, comes from the youngest of adults coming into the world. And that needs to be paired and integrated with some of the experience and the access to resources and the sort of capacity to make things happen because of where people are in their careers. And I think that's our collective task. And a little bit to, connected to what you were saying, Joep, about we've got the big aspirations, right? We've got those North Stars. So there's some work to be done about aligning. But there's a huge piece of work we have to do together about what's the space in between? Like, we feel what we want, we can see it out there. How do we actually make that happen on the ground together? So how do we structure businesses, and really I talk about all sectors, so that collectively we are being able to redefine the purpose, being able to put purpose really at the center, and to design all activities, all strategy around that, which includes both the outward action of a business, but also the way we function together, right? So that the what we are embodying within organizations is really reflective of what we're trying to put out in the world. I can say a lot more about that, but I'll stop there and let someone else come in.
Okay, thanks, Eva. Again, a very nice sharing of your views and your perspective with the educational background. I just guess that Thimo is trying to step in just before that, right?
I could.
Yes.
I wanted to build
Okay.
on what Joep was saying earlier, but see if I can remember that. But first of all, to Lisa and Amelie, listening to both of you and reflecting on my life. I turned 50 this year, and you're probably a bit younger. At this age, those thoughts were so far away. I wouldn't, if someone would say, "What's your purpose?" I would just say maybe party or do something else. But so I'm really impressed with that you have embarked on this journey and about self-reflection and finding out what you stand for. I think that's phenomenal. And this is, I'm in HR, so I see a lot of people, everybody who's coming into Stabilo, I at least see their resume, and I talk, also conduct a lot of interviews. And the terms of how evolved you guys are already, I think this is not something that we often see in candidates. So even you're young and Gen Z, what you've shown today gives me just great hope that with you guys joining the workforce, there's a lot of change, positive change that's possible. And Eva, you said something about purpose inside and outside, and this is something that we at Stabilo really try to do, in that we have a purpose that is to the outside, as a brand, how we want to approach the market, our fans, the people who use our products. And also at the same time, we recognize that if we don't really care about the purpose on the inside, we cannot really truly bring it to the outside in an authentic way. If we just do it, yeah, we'd be good at it, but we wouldn't be great, and it just wouldn't feel right. So what we have done is we have a brand positioning, that we've translated that our brand values to our company values to bring them on the inside, so we can really have this feeling of continuity inside and out and outside the inside. There's a match. And one of our values is caring, for example. And caring means to treat your own resources and those of your colleagues and those of the company in a sustainable way. And that's when I can link to Amelie and Lisa, what you guys, one of you guys said, we are not afraid to tackle issues like mental health. We know we have those issues, but we're not ashamed to talk about it. We want to do something about it. And this is also something that when I listened to you, I felt like, we're doing something right. And so we say, we just, I'm starting 2 colleagues with a mental health first aid class this summer, so that they can, if they see somebody or feel like somebody is in distress, that they have a first aid kit, not like a traditional first aid kit where you get the bandages out, the Band-Aid, but a mental health first aid kit, so you can actually guide people towards a solution. And this was one example where I said, okay, wow, we might be doing something right, and it goes into the right direction. And there was a few other points I could keep going, but I think in terms of time, I would like to pass on the baton to the next person.
Thank you, Thimo, for sharing this business-related view and also the personal aspects. And who would like to go next? Franz, yes. Let's hand over to Franz. What's your perspective? So on the one hand side, regarding the statements we heard from Lisa and Amelie, and also the relevance and the need for purpose in business and society today. Franz, you are still muted. Sorry to interrupt. We can't hear it. Maybe it's a setting that changed. Because we heard you before, I know. It's still no audio. Okay. Let's maybe then switch to Frank or Allan in the meantime, and that gives you some time to check the setting.
Okay. Yeah, actually, what I would add is adds exactly to Joep and Eva and Thimo what you were saying. I think now I'm part of the Meet Your Purpose team, and so I think what I think is critical for companies is really to develop a credible purpose that is authentic and really informs the business in the end. Because this is what we see, you need a purpose statement and then the business is going on like it used to go. And I've seen we were talking about Patagonia as an example that has a strong purpose statement that really informs all business decisions. And this is where we need to get, and then we can build a system of purpose, belief, and values. And then you, Lisa, and Amelie will just select an organization or company where you have a match of purpose and values, and then you come together. So it's really building about these relationships and systems of belief, I think, where you want to contribute. However, this I would like to add, because I've been working with some, agricultural startups in Sri Lanka, where purpose is a very different thing for these people. So there the purpose is just to survive and have enough to feed the family. However, as an organization, you have to take the responsibility and help them to achieve that. And I think that makes it so interesting. And it's very universal in the end, but it takes, a lot of time and also deep thinking and seeing all this, what is coming together to build this great or strong purpose that really ultimately will inform everything you do as an organization. And my statement, like Hartmut read it out in the beginning, I think, or I believe that businesses that are not able to develop this, they will simply find no people that will follow them. So Amelie and Lisa, you will not work for these companies. And I guess, not bashing here a local car company or manufacturer, but I think it's difficult, to show what purpose a car manufacturer building bigger and more carbon producing cars, what the purpose of these companies are in the future. So yeah, very excited to see this.
Excellent. Thank you, Frank. And I think you just pointed to an important point. Now we have Franz back.
Can you hear me now? Continue finishing your transition.
Yes, now we hear you.
Hartmut, just checking in with my mic.
Excellent. Yeah, I was just summarizing that when the discussion is now moving a bit to the relevance of purpose to businesses, and I think that's a good entry also for your perspective, Franz. Over to you, on both on the personal side regarding Amelie's and Franz and Lisa's statements, and also the wider business and societal perspective. Over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, glad that my mic works again. I have definitely a lot to say in this subject. and it's definitely one that is right up my purpose alley. And yeah, wanting to pick up where Amelie and Lisa, one sentence that really struck out to me, which I think is at the core of this, which was breaking outdated societal norms and leading the demand for change. This is what I wrote in the middle of my paper and underlined it. And I feel that's really at the core of it. And from my personal perspective, which is repurposing money to make it work in a world that respects people and planet, is the core of it. And perhaps the elephant in the room is, again, our economical and financial systems, where technically today we have a global currency or global economics that is centralized, meaning a handful of people decide what the values are for the rest of the planet. And if we extrapolate that notion to see the world around us, we see that that puts essentially everything that we really value in a market failure. And that market failure is of anthropocenic proportions. And part of that market failure is obviously the youth, which currently don't have any voice and any value in a system that is really based on extraction. And this then is a perfect segue to also what Frank was saying, and what I'm actually also here to say, which is bringing the element of the solutions to this in terms of, right now we're in this incredible times of transitions. You can see it as the age of information in which essentially ignorance is a choice. So yeah, you might have organizations doing some greenwashing or purpose, but there's this incredibly powerful technologies to align and move on to full authenticity and to transparency, and really have open source or open economic systems that align and bring this competitive edge around doing the right thing at all times, even when people are not looking, to the surface. And this is the core area of my work. I've been specializing in the field of blockchain, more specifically in creating digital venture cooperatives. Technical term is DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. As the team earlier, whenever we do digital venture, the first thing we do is define its purpose, and that we digitally enshrine in code, so it's for the whole world to see. What we see essentially an economy to be is essentially a vehicle for shared purpose. So if you have that North Star that allows multiple players to contribute with their skill sets, with their unique gifts and passions, and that purpose and contribution can be validated or given a value in today's market economy, you have essentially open self-organizing systems that are able to compete the system in its own game. And this is really what gets me excited about this new form of business that is taking place rapidly, which is really going to have a competitive edge to doing the things right, essentially aligning conscious consumption with conscious producers around the world and allowing players to contribute to that and earn. If also what we heard from Amelie and from Lisa, where we have this mental health challenges because there's uncertainty in terms of economies. There's a lot of fear that is taking place, and if we're able to bring those economic systems and opening up to enable people to contribute in an open and transparent way, it really creates opportunities for us to come together and align around what that bigger shared purpose is. And perhaps to outline a little bit of the work that we're doing in conjunction with Hartmut and Frank here in the Principality of Liechtenstein is really moving towards that, really creating the regenerative economy, where we right now have a mandate from the Principality of Liechtenstein in the European Commission to start exploring some of these projects. And just last week, we created our 100th DAO. This is already more on the global terms, but we're already experimenting with these technologies and allowing communities to create their own economical systems and their own community ships, vehicles that are able to create value and distribute that value in a fair and transparent protocol that builds trust. And from that place of empowerment, it really becomes a fun and beautiful way to create that value and share it. And at the same time as these technologies are borderless, it's really bringing things together. We're coming to the global realization that we are all in one island and we need to work with one another across cultures, across borders to make things work. And that's also at the other side of this equation that, as systems are collapsing, new systems are rising up to the opportunity and enabling new ways of creating wealth, and that wealth to be created in a different manner. Maybe one quick thing to mention before I pass it on to the next speaker is also an invitation to Amelie and Lisa, and perhaps any others who are listening. One of the projects that we are right now have before to launch here in Liechtenstein is something called Token for Change, which we're bringing in the relevant youth players to come together in a direct governance system and a way to allow youth to actually decide what is the form of economy that they want to engage and to help shape that. And that's been a missing piece in our global society, where we have a handful of perhaps politicians that should be representing us, but obviously are not representing the younger generations. So with these new technologies, we have a direct way to make the voice of the youth be heard. And as that demand for change that Amelie and Lisa were saying is received with new vehicles that are able to supply that, we're actually creating the biggest economy in the world. And that's the exciting part, because that is what's going to outcompete the systems, the reductionist systems in their own game.
Yeah, fascinating, Franz, for sharing this perspective on the whole economy of the future, actually, and the opportunities that are there, and to reset it up in a purpose-driven way. And this also brings me to handing over to Allan, because I think you're in the middle of such a process of resetting up your business, right? Maybe you could share your perspective on this. I'm sure that's another interesting view on how you do it, and also your personal notes, of course, on what we heard from Amelie and Lisa.
Yes, many thanks for having me. Very grateful for being here, and I would say, wow, I've already overloaded with inspiration. There's so much knowledge and wisdom and experience in this room, and I think I will only repeat one thing of what's been said, which is a nice bridge to Emily and Lisa, and that's what you said, Thimo. I feel so happy and grateful for you guys, Emily and Lisa, that you are in such a young age, that you're being this reflective, that you're asking yourself about purpose, and I like also to see it as a meaning of life. And a lot of what you or maybe I would say all of what you said, I can really it resonates with me. One of the things that I really hit my heart was mental stress, depressions in Generation Z, and that's not only Generation Z, that's our entire society that has this big issue, and there's a strong link to purpose there, at least out of my own experience. So it's true what Hartmut is saying. I'm the company that I'm in, owner of, a co-owner of, and co-manager of, you can say, is in a transformation. But I have, as a person, been into a transformation for many years now, starting back in 2010, starting to asking myself the question, who am I really? And why am I here? What is the meaning of life? Because my own experience was that I was in a egoic, capitalistic sense. I was successful, but I was unhappy, and I was not feeling any joy or love or gratitude in my life. And that's why I started asking these big questions. And much further down the road, about 7 years later, the answer came to me, and I would like to share my purpose too, because you were so honest and respectful and gracious to us. So for me, I had a kind of a spiritual awakening, and it might sound a little bit fluffy, but for me, purpose really is we are here to spread love. We're here to spread joy. We are here to contribute. We are here to take care of ourselves, our own body and mind, and we are here to take care of each other. and I really feel that I live by this wisdom. It is probably not the only wisdom that's out there, but that's my wisdom, and that has to be the core and the backbone of business as well. So business is here to make a positive contribution to society. That is the backbone of it. That's the core. I lived for many years where my business was about myself, was about self-exposure and money, materialism, and I really see very clear that is a big problem in the capitalistic system, because it feeds egoism and we need another system that brings higher consciousness and that inspires people to start really asking these fundamental questions. And I repeat myself, but that who am I really, and why am I really here? And that's also very much, you can say, the core of the business that I'm now co-creating. We are here as a philosophy, clear philosophy, clear values, and it's at the core. It is about spreading this philosophy and inspiring people to start living a conscious life and start living by true values and spread love, spread joy, take care of yourself, but also take care of each other, take care of the environment. And I'm not at all, I have to say, problem focused. I'm also part of an investment company, and we meet a lot of startups as well, which are problem focused, and I can understand it. But at some point I was very clear that that's not my path, because I cannot wake up in the morning and be problem focused. The earth is on fire and all this stuff. So it's very easy. I wake up in the morning and I know I'm here to spread love, spread joy, make a positive contribution, and then I just have faith in whatever comes. And I wanted to share that as well, because I see that can be also troubles there in our society if we are negative and we send out negativity. That is what we will create. So let's create love and positivity and yeah. So I guess I could say much more, but I think that's good for now. And yeah, just very happy to be here in this round. Thank you.
Thank you, Allan, for your statement. And I really love the idea of love and positivism that you mentioned at the end. That's also one of the things I'm really convinced of, yeah, that we can, the spirit that we share and that we provide, that this really can lead to positive change overall. Thanks for this. And now let's move back to Amelie and Lisa for a moment. And the question now is what are the additional aspects? I mean, this room, Allan said, was full of inspiration. I also took a lot of ideas from it. But what were the main points you took from this regarding the multitude of feedback maybe you got, and what are the additional aspects you grabbed for your view on purpose?
I can start. So I wrote down what you guys said, and I feel very, very grateful to be here and that I could listen to all of your responses and all of your thoughts. It was very inspiring. Thank you. So, Eva, you said at the beginning that we need to develop education. So we need to develop the education system so students find their purpose. Is that right? Okay. So this really stuck with me because personally, I always felt kind of stuck in the school system, always following the rules and never thinking about what is my purpose other than than mastering my A levels. So after school finished, I was really lost in life and didn't really know what to do with myself or what was my purpose, because school never taught me, which I found was really sad. I learned a lot in school about geography, history, even mathematics, but still, I think that we really need to change the school system to start teaching young people to reflect and think about what is their purpose, why, what do they want to do with themselves in their hopefully long life. So that really stuck with me. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I can also just add to that and say that I'm very grateful to have chosen this course in my journey to my bachelor's degree, because I would have never, or I think we would have never even considered that purpose should really play a part in choosing where we want to work, for example. And that's why I'm very happy to hear also that I'm very happy to hear from you business people that you are implementing what we said in your businesses. And yeah, but I also sometimes wonder if other people who haven't started the purpose journey would think like us, or if they can see what our demands are, or what we have to say. So I mean, we are in this group because we all have a purpose, or because we all already have thought about our purpose. But how would that be with like other companies? What are your thoughts about that?
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Amelie, for sharing this. And yeah, I think now we can really open the co-creative part of this session. So we have roughly half an hour left, and the invitation now is really to share ideas. Yeah, in general, how can we make purpose more meaningful in business and also personally for all of us? I think we see that both perspectives are closely related to each other. And maybe again, I'd like to ask Joep to open the round, and then all the others to follow. And you can do it also in several times again in a yes and mode, so that we connect the ideas to each other and really have the co-creative flow going on. So, Joep, what do you think? Do you have a starting point?
Yeah, I suppose what I really appreciated in well, I actually like Allan. It's almost overwhelming. So there's so many different connection points, and I find it a bit difficult to latch onto any particular point. But one thing that really struck with me is so we're thinking about France's point about democratizing our corporations, and then the notions of care and love, and sort of seeing an organization as a collective undertaking, and that we support each other. The individual dreams, aspirations, and purposes that we have through caring collective organizations. And I think one of the things that I find personally very interesting is that the companies that we really truly consider to be purpose-led. So if you take Patagonia, if you take Interface, if you take, so in Holland, where I'm based, we've got an insurer, ASR, that is becoming more purpose-led. And actually, a lot of those companies are very caring, learning-oriented companies. So they're actively open communities. I wouldn't say, maybe they're not radically democratized, but they're not organizations that are reflections of the capitalist system. They're not economic entities, so to speak, purely, for their own sake, and maybe then housing some of the values that Allan was referring to in terms of making a career in those organizations and being motivated by certain incentives. So these types of organizations, they're actively learning, they're grappling with issues, they realize that they're going to come up against dilemmas, and they work collectively through them. And they also do it in a way, at least this is my observation, and that's why I find it so interesting, where they're really caring and supportive towards one another. So there's at least there's the aim not to be judgmental and not to be closing discussions down, and that to me has been quite remarkable. So these organizations, so the metaphor would be one where they are learning organizations, they are human consciousness pursuing organizations, they are radically, but maybe not radically, but democratic sort of entities, because they realize that even if there's leadership from the top that showcases or suggests what the direction should be for the organization, they realize that it's a collective undertaking and that we're all collectively committing ourselves to this joint purpose. And that's different, I think, from the companies who just take purpose on as just a marketing slogan or a rehashing of their mission statement or anything else, because so it's not credible in Frank's terms, or it's not authentic, and it's not carried through, not just into the business, but also in how they've organized themselves. So I think, and this is a big task, because I work in a business school, and for decades we've been teaching economic theories of the firm and stakeholder theories of the firm that are not how these types of organizations are operating. So we really need to think about how can we configure these types of organizations and get some really good blueprints and examples out there, maybe by learning from these purpose-led cases, and then disseminate that more broadly, so that we get these caring environments that we need.
Thanks, Joep. Yes, but please.
Just
Go ahead.
make my head spin, because I work for a company, Stabilo, we're soon going to be 170 years old, and people, we have average tenure of 15 plus years, and we have purpose. We like to communicate it, we like to talk about it, but I always wonder how many people are conscious of their own purpose. So if we talk about the company purpose or translating a brand purpose to the inside, and I had the pleasure of traveling all of Stabilo last year with talking about purpose and our values, and I'm not sure how many people actually can connect to the idea of purpose, because many of them are just in their daily lives, in the rat race of life, and you have to get your head above water. You have to take a breather. You have to take pause. Like Allan, what you said, successful but unhappy, and at some point you found out, I need to change something. So in order to have a meaningful conversation about purpose, you need more groups of people like this to talk about it. And I mean, you guys talk a lot more about purpose than I do on a daily basis, but do you guys have an estimate as to how many people, percentage-wise, or how many people are ready to talk about purpose or even know what it is? Question for the group, I guess.
Frank, do you have a guess?
I think it's really hard to say. I mean, maybe people from academics can answer that question, but my gut feeling says it's, maybe 20% or less. I don't know. And it's also, it depends very much at what flight level you're in the organization. You know, like I said, if you're working with farmers in Sri Lanka, it's difficult. But then you need to, communicate it in a different way. But still, I mean, they're caring about the environment and all these aspects. However, like I said, I am very convinced if you cannot deliver a strong purpose as an organization in the future, you will simply not get the right people for your
Agreed.
company. And talking about Patagonia, I've once had the chance to talk to an HR manager of Patagonia, and he told me that they have like several hundred applicants every day.
Mhm.
You know, people that are just want to be part of that thing. They don't bring the skills actually the company needs. They just want to be part of it. And so this is beyond brand. I think this is a movement.
Mhm.
This is a system of belief for a better future. And I think, well, that's maybe a little bit tough to say, but in a time, you know, where people are running away from churches and these systems, this is also an anchor for mental health, even if it's an organization. And I think that is the right thing to say, we are here to contribute something, and organizations, companies have to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And I might jump in because I would say I'm very fortunate to be in a world where we are often talking about purpose. So I think my own sense of the statistics around how many people are focused on purpose would be skewed. But I mean, I do think that the part of our kind of human experience is a yearning, which I think is quite universal. And it's a yearning for connection and a yearning for meaning, you know.
Mhm.
And I think that those two things both tie up in purpose, particularly the meaning piece. And I think that's where the connection to the mental health crisis is. Because if I think about what's the kind of antidote, certainly for young people, for university students, what's the antidote to the really widespread depression in particular, maybe not as much the anxiety, but it is it's both to connect to a sense of purpose, but also to have a place to express it, right? So it's those two things. So I connect, I know what I want to do, I know how I want to live or the difference I want to make, and here's a way that I can do that. And I really think that's how, and if we can build the conditions for that, I think that's a way to start to tackle the sort of widespread depression. That actually, and Allan, absolutely, that's across generations, right? It's just, I think it's shown up pretty acutely for university students, particularly pandemic and post-pandemic. And so I think what I'm sitting with from all of this conversation, it's so inspiring what you're all doing in work and in business. And I'm like, how do we bring that closer to education, right? And there are, people do internships and things like that, but I think if we're really about kind of co-creating something different, and Franz, I loved what you talked about, co-creating an economic model where multiple players contribute the gifts that they have in ways that, lift them up and bring energy to them, but to the whole system. I think it is going to have to take a closer relationship between education, which is so formative, right? Higher ed, you're coming into your adulthood, you're kind of learning about how the world is and how you're going to engage in it. So bringing that closer to what many of you are doing. Yeah.
Thanks, Eva. I think there were some comments pointing towards France already. So have you in perspective, would you like to connect? Make the yes and connection
Absolutely.
to this?
I hope you guys can hear me this time. And definitely
Yes.
so many points to connect, maybe picking up from where Eva left off. And beautiful that you bring this up. I also think purpose is essentially a universal quality that is inside women. And, even if we're not openly talking about it or know what we're even talking about, it's already a driving force, whether we know it or not. And, for my personal journey, I've seen it almost from the indigenous world around the planet are already born into a world of purpose and are already in, even though they've been sort of like colonized by the Western economic systems in many ways, the connection to nature and to their cosmology is always very full of purpose. And that's also, again, bringing up the economical element, where essentially if you have a ritual of economics in which we are exchanging currencies that have a certain energetics to it, that becomes a default culture. And one of our sort of roles that we have here is to create this new culture based on new rituals that are based on this common understanding and common trust that we know is available. In essence, it's a game theory, and we know that the ultimate game is that of collaboration. And once we start aligning around our business and our different current countries and ways of being, and enter into that space of collaboration and feeding on the positive sides of humanity, then we start creating a whole new movement. And as you were mentioning, education is a core foundation of this. If you apply the lens of culture and education to what we're saying, as I think Lisa was saying, or no, actually Amelie, that today in the default world, we're essentially born. We already have a nationality. We already have like a roadmap where we need to go. Is accomplish elementary school, accomplish high school, go to university, graduate, and you're always looking for what's next in that curve and never really being present and being here now, which is again what this culture has sort of taken us from the center being of presence. And yeah, part of that reclaiming of our culture is going to have a reclaiming of our education system. In the open, transparent place that I've been playing, we've had, and we're starting to explore on some fantastic experiments where we're using DAOs as educational vehicles. So, for example, having a master program or a bachelor program, as we're doing in University of National Collaboration in Costa Rica as a DAO. When students come in to receive their education, they come in as applying members into a DAO where the lecturers are already full members, and as the students accomplish their education, they become also full members. And part of their tuition fees goes into essentially a common treasury that is co-stewarded by the students and the lecturers. So as when you finish your educational tuition, it's not you just receive a diploma and that's it. Go out into the world and find where you can actually get a job in the open market. It's more that you actually have a network of cooperative entrepreneurs happening around the world where lecturers are co-invested in each other. So then you're able to start creating new systems that you're actually activating this collective intelligence and opening new markets where we're actually all invested in the quality and the loyalty of the magic of what it is that we're doing. I know as this system starts taking place and you have then an open market of choice, you want to do a system where where your life devoid of purpose, or you want to have a life that is much more fulfilling, with much more community, with much more unity, with much more freedom and flexibility, then it becomes a clear option for those who are not even aware of what's at stake in this beautiful times of transition. So that's what makes me excited to see this new experiments really taking shape and out competing the old system in its own game.
Thanks, Franz. Who would like to connect to this? Out competing the old system. Allan, yes, over to you.
Yeah, many thanks again. I was sitting with the thought that you said something in the same direction, or maybe you actually said it, Franz, that the indigenous people, they live with purpose, and I feel it's very important that we understand that it's about consciousness and not about intellectual knowledge. When it is about intellectual knowledge, that's why we have all these companies that have copy paste. So the tobacco company that has a purpose as well. And you were asking Lisa, which companies or how many companies are out there that really have a true purpose, that have really gotten into the core of the purpose. That's a very good question. But I really feel it is about creating a consciousness, and it's about really connecting to ourselves, and less or maybe nothing about really intellectual awareness. So I was a smoker for many, many, many years, and I knew intellectually that it is hazardous for the body, but I did it anyways. And we know what we are, or at least many, many people know that we have a big environmental crisis and so many other crises. But there are so many people in my let me call it my network, they know it intellectually, but they don't do anything about it. There's no awakening. So the solution has to be somewhere else than about maybe it's the link to education. It has to be. We have to reach people on the higher conscious level instead of intellectual level. So bringing people into nature, for example, is extremely powerful. Probably also the reason why we still have people growing up in the jungle, and they don't have the same knowledge as we do, but they have a much higher consciousness, and they know what their purpose is, and that is to take care of themselves and to take care of each other and to take care of the environment that they live in, and they do that fantastic. So maybe a question in the round: what thoughts and ideas do you have that we can really move something there, touching people, inspiring people to create this high consciousness? Because I really feel the attraction towards that much more than it's about intellectual knowledge. It's much more about wisdom, consciousness. Thank you.
Thanks, Allan. Any ideas, Frank? Yes?
Yeah, I would just pick up the idea of education, actually. Make that really part of the journey, of the education journey at the very first beginning, even in kindergarten. You should allow kids to connect to that and discuss it. And I mean, there are like alternative education models, like anthroposophic models, etc., that are starting this at a very early age. I mean, but some of these reform pedagogic aspects are already implemented in some schools, but I see a lot of room for improvement here.
Thanks.
I can jump into that
I
afterwards.
find it interesting that there's...
Frank and
Yes, Franz, go ahead.
Sorry. Thanks, Hartmut.
Yes,
to add on
please.
to what Frank and Allan were saying, underlining, it's actually about unlearning than learning a whole bunch of things like you're alluding to. We're kind of overladen with information, but we don't know what to use with that information. Big difference between wisdom and knowing than it is just to kind of fill your mind up with things. And again, to take it back to the educational lens, our educational systems today are essentially industrial education systems. We've been training our generations to be apt into an industrial setting or a corporate setting that it's a part of the past. And as we build this new sort of education systems, and what I also wanted to underline regarding your question, Allan, I think for what I noticed, and this was a huge epiphany in terms of essentially our military system. Again, I think I alluded to it briefly, but our civilization today is defined by its medium of exchange, meaning it is our highest ritual. And if you change that medium of exchange, you can also change civilization. And that's the key, because if we're operating by default on an economical system that is operating here from a place of scarcity, of artificial scarcity, which is not even there, natural scarcity, then if you kind of aggregate that across time and space, then you create a culture that has that values conditioned into, which has been sort of taken over to our original cultures, our indigenous, that is found around the world, also in Europe. In Europe we have very strong indigenous roots that we have just kind of been disconnected from by the system. But if we're able to connect to those again and tap into that inner wisdom, then the transition can happen relatively, or actually much faster than we think.
Thanks, Franz. What about you, Amelie and Lisa, or any of you? What do you think about this now that we move to this, also to this intersection of education and business? I think it brings us a bit back to the starting point for today's discussion too, right?
Yes. So I wanted to add to the whole, renewing the educational system, because I totally agree with that, because I think that the education should provide more programs that helps pupils getting in touch with their purpose. And also we talked about getting in touch with nature. This contributes to more thoughtfulness and respect for the environment and for the nature. So, because when I think about typical school subjects like even physics or maybe chemics or geography, it's all very, it's very theoretical. And I think maybe if we start to really explore the world and not just explore the world on paper, people will become more in touch with nature and therefore become more in touch with their own purpose. Because I think it's also important to state that purpose can also you can only think about your own purpose if certain needs are covered. For example, health, such as mental health and physical health, that you feel safe, that you have a home, that you have food and access to water. And I think, so in conclusion, if the educational system would be more on the side of nature and on the side of the individual and the environment, I think this really helps to teach young people respect for themselves and for their environment, so that they can form their purpose.
Yes, I think we can just hope that Hartmut and you other people do these purpose seminars more often, so that, or also next year, so that other students like us can have the chance to think about our purpose and to think about purpose in connection with the business work, because I think that most of us young people don't even know that our purpose is important to businesses or companies, and that companies and businesses like it or find it important that we know what we want. So I think it's very important to for you too, as business people, to spread the knowledge about purpose, not only for oneself, but also in companies, and that that we can all make decisions based on our purpose too.
Yeah, Lisa, we as a business, or at least in my function in the company, we think a lot about Generation Z, and because you guys are the ones joining the workforce, at least in Germany, and I think also throughout Europe, we have a demographic disruption happening. There's many people leaving the workforce, and your age group is relatively small compared to the age group leaving the workforce. So there is actually going to be, I don't like militaristic terms, but there will be a battle, a lot of competition for young people. And in the end, Franz, we are still in this industrial setting at this point, but companies will bully and try to position themselves to get the best talents and get the right people in to exist in the future. So yeah, Lisa, we're thinking about you and your generation quite a bit. And it was quite refreshing today to get a bit of a different perspective on Gen Z, because some of the terms or terms that I've heard about Gen Z don't really match with what I've experienced today with the two of you being really reflective about who you are, what you want to do, or what you stand for. So this gives me great hope. I'm done.
Thanks, Thimo. Any further ideas you would like to share? I still find it quite striking. How can we get more into this spiritual mode and this idea of connecting to nature, actually, because that's what I experienced myself over many years, also together with Frank, actually. So we were runners, still are, maybe, but not in such a trained way. But we were running, actually, so this brings me just to this example. Running together every Sunday for several years. And we started to call it a creative run because we said we actually had these purposeful discussions then every week just by running. I think connecting this idea of being in nature and connecting it with movement, actually, I think is pretty strong. And also in other activities like cycling, for example, whenever there's some movement in nature, I think it's an ideal environment of getting into this type of flow. Just looking over to Frank, maybe that's also something you might share or add to.
Yeah, I think it's being on the move and just, I mean, there are so many famous people like Einstein, even Steve Jobs, that developed a lot of their ideas while walking in nature, basically, just walking. You don't have to run. You can just walk, and I think it's the natural way, we are not born to sit on a chair at a desk and get some ideas. And I'm coming from the creative world. I was trained as an industrial designer, so it's always about, creating new stuff and empathizing with people and so on. And I always found it very helpful, getting up from the desk, going outside, and just use all your senses. And I think now this is the good thing about technology, now we can do it. You can even join a Zoom call while you're walking and then switch it off again and smell the air and listen to the birds. And I think that is actually a practice I encourage also my team to do. If you don't come up with a good idea, take a walk, take a swim, whatever. I don't care. You don't have to develop your ideas at the desk. But in many companies, this is still the case. I mean, this has changed now with the pandemic because, you have to trust people that they are working, even they're not sitting at their desks. But it's a good practice. And yeah. And coming to what you said, Lisa, Amelie, that you think you should have more like these conversations in university, I would encourage you guys actually to set up these formats maybe and become an entrepreneur within the university at the LMU and you just invite others to join that discussion. So don't wait for us.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. So this moves the perspective actually to the action. And looking at the time, I just see that we have just a few minutes left. So time passed very quickly, and I think we could go on for a very long time. But I would like to, particularly with this inspiring discussion and group of people that we have here. But I would like to come to the conclusion actually of today. And I would like to ask each of you for a final concluding statement. And the question is, what do I take with me from today's Purpose Dialogue conversation? So whoever would like to go first can start this concluding round.
I can start. I think something that's been coming to me actually right from the beginning, but as we've gone through, is kind of the idea that you brought in, Allan, around in the broadest sense that your purpose is to bring love to the world. And so I think what I'm kind of conceptualizing in my head is that what is purpose, but it's our particular way of manifesting the love that we want to bring into the world. And that there are so many expressions of that, but that's really what we're talking about, and that's why it matters so much, and that's why it hits us so deeply. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful to have been a part of this conversation, and I leave incredibly inspired by all that we've shared and all that I've heard. So thank you.
Thanks, Eva. Let's maybe conclude this round by handing over to someone. So who would you like to hear next, Eva?
I'll go to Joep.
You go to?
I was still gathering my thoughts, but I take a lot of things away, but I particularly like this notion of finding ways in which organizations. So then I'm beyond the educational system, thinking about how organizations can nurture the human spirit, and can unlock that consciousness that Allan referred to, and I think that's very important. And the other thing that I take away is from Amélie, where you said that you're facing the future boldly with confidence, and I think that's what we also still need to do. And because there's so much history and there's so much the baggage of history, on us, saying that it can't be done and it can't happen, but there is possibility, and there's always space to maneuver if we put our spirit and minds to it. So I thought that was very powerful. So thank you.
Who would you like to hand over to?
Thimo.
Oh, thanks, Joep. For me, first of all, thank you Frank for inviting me into this group. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but this was really, really great. Key takeaway for me is positivity. Positivity and knowing that the antidote to what's going on in this world right now is connecting and talking about it and then acting on it together. And that's, for me, I kind of knew this already, but kind of feeling this in this group and in this discussion really gave me happiness. And I'm hopeful to begin with, and a positive person, but even more so, also hopeful that this world, as it is crazy right now, and it will stay crazy, we can guide into a direction that is more positive, one step at a time. And with that, can I give to Amélie, maybe? You're right next to me, so I can.
Yeah, thank you. So I stated my current purpose in the beginning, that I want to work and connect with people from all over the world. And this discussion today proved again that I was right in stating my purpose this way. So thank you. I'm really inspired by all of you, and I think my purpose is to get inspiration from people like you, who we are all very different, of course, but we sort of think the same as well. So thank you very much.
So I'm just very happy to know that there's so much positivity, and the insights in Purpose Among Us and in the business world were so inspiring. And I'm just happy to see that our demands as Gen Z have an impact on the business world, and that it matters to say what we want, and that companies even think that it's important for us to have our purpose and to know our purpose and to be guided by it. Okay, so Allan, maybe continue.
Thank you. So Thimo said key takeaway was positivity. I will add faith in humanity and in the universe. And I just said with the what came into mind was I talked about focus on positivity and instead of solving problems, and it just came to me that I think this group here shows. So we have all attracted each other, right? So it's the law of attraction, and what a fantastic group. So such wonderful people, so much inspiration, so much love. So I would say that would be this came to me, would be my key takeaway, that let's keep on sending out this positive vibrations, and we will create a loving, valuable, meaningful world. And over to Frans.
Thank you, Allan. What to add after all your graceful contributions? I think what's left for me is to share gratitude. That's what I take with this. I'm super grateful for Hartmut and Frank to hold this space for us and bringing us all here together. This is a proof in the pudding of what shared purpose has the capacity to do, and that's also, tying it back to the conversation. The magic that happens when people come together on shared purpose is the energy and the resource that is here to change the world. And to kind of add also what Lisa was saying, that demand for change is not just going to be shaped by the youth, it's really going to be driven by the youth. So really gratitude to the youth for pioneering what older generations have not been able to do. This is our time, and this is really the exciting piece of transition that's all going to be here. So my gratitude goes especially to the youth for leading that change.
Thanks, Franz. I think there's still a conclusion open for Frank to make, right?
Yeah, not much to add here. Very grateful, being in this discussion with you. I think it's just, that we're coming together in that way from so many different backgrounds proves that purpose is important and brings us together, actually. And what I especially enjoyed is like having these different perspectives, from old guys like me and Hartmut and me, and then Amelie and Lisa. This is quite a spectrum. And what I can see as a designer is always good, to have very different views on things to create something new. So thanks for that. To be continued, hopefully.
Thanks, Frank, and thank you all. Yes, also for me, I think my takeaway is actually this power that is in conscious communication, because this, I think, brought us together, and I think it's also a best practice in how people can communicate them, and to see what kind of ideas and inspiration also can emerge from real communication, which includes the listening that we did at the beginning, and also the sharing of ideas and letting some new ideas happen and emerge from this. So for me, it's also, I'm very inspired. I'm looking forward to taking some of the key results that we just summarized also into this discussion that is still going on live here in Munich, and we'll share this back to the room. You're also invited to join via the Zoom link that I shared for the last half an hour. And very grateful that you joined, that you followed the invitation, that you shared the ideas, that you were open for this discussion. And I'm looking forward to continue, and I'm sure we'll summarize some of this I would just say in a text format. It will also be available on YouTube, and I'm looking forward. Would be grateful if we could continue this discussion. So thanks for joining. Thanks also for our people listening outside via LinkedIn and on YouTube, and see you soon again. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thanks so much.